वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं न चैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमां विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणि प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यादि पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे सर्वशास्त्राधि पीयूष सर्ववेदैक सत्फल सर्वसिद्धांत रत्नाढ्य सर्वलोकैक तत्प्रद सर्वभागवत प्राण श्रीमद्भागवत प्रभो कविध्वांतोदितादित्य श्रीकृष्ण परिवर्तित परमानंद पाठाय प्रेमवर्ष क्षरायते सर्वदा सर्वसेव्याय श्रीकृष्णाय नमस्तु मदेक बंधो मत्संगिन मद्गुरो मन्महाधन मनुस्तारक मद्भाग्य मदानंद नमोस्तुते साधु साधुतादायन अग्निचोच्चताकर आनमंचतदाचिन्मां ब्रह्मणा हृत्कण्ठयोस्फुर ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओके 2.3.1 to 2.3.11 chapter 3 pure devotion service the change in heart text 1 श्रीशुक उवाच एवमेतन्निगदितं पृष्टवान् यद् भवान् मम नृणां यन्म्रियमाणानां मनुष्येषु मनीषिणाम् Sri Sukadeva Goswami said, Maharaj Parikshit, as you have inquired from me as to the duty of the intelligent man who is on the threshold of death, who is just about to die. So I have answered you. Mriyamananam manusheshu manishinam sambandhe prishtavan. This is how we have to connect the words. Tritiye Vishnu bhakteshu vaishishtyam shrinvatam mune bhakti udrekena tatkarma shravanadari. In the third chapter, it is pointed out that the devotees of Lord Vishnu are special. This is spoken for the benefit of those who are hearing. And then the sage, with an overflow of bhakti, he expresses his value, the value of hearing about his activities. The value of hearing about his activities from the sage is presented. Idanim अन्य देवता भजनस्यापि पुत्रादि भिन्नवद्देव तुच्छफलत्वेन हेयत्वं वक्तुं पूर्वोक्तम् अनुवदति एवम्. Now, even worship of other worshipable deities is meant to be rejected because its results are insignificant, just like service to one's sons and so on. In order to say this, the sage first repeats what was stated before. कदाचित् दैवयोगेन मनुष्यत्वं प्राप्तेषु जीवेषु ये मनीषिणः तेषां तत्रापि ये म्रियमाणाः तेषां विशेषतः एवमेतद् हरिकथाश्रवणादिकं निगदितं विहितम् इत्यर्थः. Amongst the jivas who by providence have some time attained the human body, there are some who are intelligent and amongst them also, for those who are about to die, specifically for those who are about to die, hearing about and reciting Harikatha and so on has been prescribed. द्वितीये तु नृणां क्षुल्लफलैरन्यसुरार्चना तथैवेन्द्रियवैफल्यं चोक्तं भक्तिं रते हरे. In the third chapter, the uselessness of sense enjoyment, worship of other deities, by mankind because of insignificant results have been stated. The only exception is devotional service to Lord Hari. Mriyamananam nrinam krityam yad prishtam tadetad yogamate sritidvayam nigaditam. Regarding the duties of men who are about to die, the question that has been raised has been answered in terms of two pathways according to the opinion of yoga. Yoga meaning Ashtanga Yoga. तथा तेषु एव मनुष्येषु मध्ये ये मनीषिणः म्रियमाणाः तेषां भगवद्विधानाम् एवमेतत् श्रवणकीर्तन स्मरण कथामृतादि निगदितम्. Specifically for those who are about to die, this refers to persons like Parikshit himself. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, the nectarian topics pertaining to Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, and so on have been spoken. In human society all over the world, there are millions and billions of men and women, and almost all of them are less intelligent because they have very little knowledge of the spirit soul. Almost all of them have a wrong conception of life, for they identify themselves with the gross and subtle material bodies, which they are not, in fact. They may be situated in different high and low positions in the estimation of human society, but what you know definitely that unless one inquires about his own self beyond the body and the mind, all his activities in human life are total failures. Therefore, out of thousands and thousands of men, one may inquire about the spirit self and thus consult revealed scriptures like the Vedanta Sutras, Bhagavad Gita, and Srimad Bhagavatam. But in spite of reading and hearing such scriptures, unless one is in touch with the realized spiritual master, he cannot actually realize the real nature of self, etc. And out of thousands and hundreds of thousands of men, someone may know what Lord Krishna is in fact. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 20.122 to 123, it said that Lord Krishna, out of his causeless mercy, prepared the Vedic literatures in the incarnation of Vyasadeva for reading by the intelligent class of men in human society, which is almost totally forgetful of the genuine relation with Krishna. Even such an intelligent class of men may be forgetful in their relation with the Lord. The whole Bhakti Yoga process is therefore a revival of the lost relation. This revival is possible in the human form of life, which is obtained only rarely in the evolutionary cycle of 8,400,000 species of life. The intelligent class of human being must take serious note of this opportunity. Not all human beings are intelligent, so the importance of human life is not always understood. Therefore, Manishina, meaning thoughtful, particularly used here. Manishinam person. That means a person referred to by the word Manishinam. Like Maharaj Parikshit, must therefore take to the lotus feet of Lord Krishna and fully engage himself in the devotion service of hearing and chanting the holy name and pastimes of the Lord, which are all Harikathamrita. This action is especially recommended when one is preparing for death. Okay. Then 2.3.2 to 7. ब्रह्म वर्चस कामस्तु यजेत ब्रह्मणः पतिम् इंद्रमिंद्रिय कामस्तु प्रजा काम प्रजापति देवी मायां तो श्री कामस तेजस कामो विभाव वसु वसु कामो वसुन रुद्रान वीर्य कामो थ वीर्यवान नाद्य कामस पदितिम स्वर्ग कामो दिते सुतान विश्वान देवान राज्य काम साध्यान संसाधको विशाम आयुष कामो श्रीणो देवो पुष्टि काम इलाम यजे प्रतिष्ठा काम पुरुषो रोदसी लोकमातरो रूपाभिकामो गंधर्वान् स्त्री कामोत्सर उर्वशीन् आधिपत्य काम सर्वेषां यजेत परमेष्ठिनम् यज्ञं यजेत यशस्काम कोशकाम प्रचेतसम् विद्या कामस्तु गिरिशं दाम्पत्यार्थ उमा सतीम्. One who desires to be absorbed in the impersonal Brahmajyoti effulgence should worship the master of the Vedas, or Brahma or Brihaspati, the learned priest. One who desires powerful sex should worship the heavenly king Indra, and one who desires good progeny should worship the great progenitors called the Prajapatis. One who desires good fortune should worship Durga Devi, the superintendent of the material world. One desiring to be very powerful should worship fire, and one who aspires only for money should worship the Vasus. One should worship the Rudra incarnations of Lord Shiva if he wants to be a great hero. One who wants a large stock of grains should worship Aditi. One who desires to attain the heavenly planet should worship the sons of Aditi. One who desires a worldly kingdom should worship Vishwadeva. And one who wants to be popular with the general mass of population should worship the Sadhya demigod. One who desires a long span of life should worship the demigods known as the Ashwini Kumaras. And a person desiring a strongly built body should worship the earth. One who desires stability in his pose should worship the horizon and the earth combined. One who desires to be beautiful should worship the beautiful residents of the Gandharva planet. And one who desires a good wife should worship the Apsaras and the Urvashi society girls of the heavenly kingdom. One who desires domination over others should worship Lord Brahma, the head of the universe. One who desires tangible fame should worship the personality of Godhead. And one who desires a good bank balance should worship the demigod Varuna. If one desires to be a greatly learned man, he should worship Lord Shiva. And if one desires a good marital relation, he should worship the chaste goddess Uma, the wife of Lord Shiva. Brahmanaspatim Vedasya Patim Brahmanam. Indriya Patava Kamastu Indriyam. One who desires sharp sense enjoyment, I mean, very good, high quality sense enjoyment should worship Indra. Kama Prajapatin Daksha Adin. One who desires good progeny should worship the great progenitors called the Prajapatis, headed by Daksha. Now, Chakravarti Thakur. ये च तेषु एव मनुष्येषु मध्ये मन्दधियः तेषां च कृत्यं शृणु इत्याह. यद्वा किं वा भजनीयम् इति यत् पृष्टं तत्र प्रथमं मन्दधियां भजनीयान् आह ब्रह्मवर्चसा इत्यादिना कामो कामो युजेत् सोमम् इत्यन्तेन. Amongst human beings, there are those with those whose intelligence is dull. Listen to their duties, or else another meaning. The king had asked, what should be the object of service? So first of all, he talks about the objects of service of the less intelligent, beginning with Brahma Varchasa and ending with Kama Kamo Yajet Somam. Brahmanapatim, Vedapatim, Brahmanam, Prajapatim, Dakshadin. Mayam, Durgam, Vibhav, Vibhavas, Vibhav, voices, song. . Virya, Virya, that is that. If he wants to be a great hero, that is that. Gran Virya Kama, Atha Viryavan. So if one wants to be very strongly built and he is most powerful, then he should worship the Rudra expansions of Lord Shiva. Vijay Goswami notes that most powerful means that he can even tolerate when his neck is being cut and so on. Vivekama, Bahustri Sambhogartham, Shukradikya Kamasche, Rudranyate. Another meaning, one who desires excessive semen, Virya also means semen, in order to enjoy many women, he should worship the Rudra expansions of Lord Shiva. Annadyam. Annadya refers to Bhojyam Bhakshyam Cha, that which can be uh, that which is of different types. I think that which is chewed and which is eaten. Adite Sultan, the sons of Aditi. The sons of Aditi are 12. Visham Deshastha Prajanam Swadhina Tam Ichan Sadhyam Yajet. Vishwan Devan Rajakama. That is there. Sadhyam Yajet. Samsadhako Vishwan. Right? Samsadhaka Vishwan. Okay, okay. So one who desires freedom for people living in a particular place should worship the sadhyas. Visham, Rishi Vanidyatinam, Vanityadinam should be sadhaka, sadhane pravritta. Specifically refers to those who are engaged in Rishi Vanidya and so on. Ayush kamoshvino devo pushtikama ilam. Pratishtha, sthanat aprachyutihi. One who desires good fame or stability in the post. One who desires stability in a post. Not that, I mean, he should have a post by which he is not thrown out of it. Yajnam, Yajnopadhim Vishnu. That is that. Yajnam. Yajnam Yajet Yashaskama. One who desires to be famous was worship Lord Yajna. This refers to Lord Vishnu, who has accepted Yajna as his Upadhi. Voshaha, Vasu Sanchaya. One who desires a good bank balance. Okay. It requires an accumulation of wealth. Poshakama and Vasukama, where is Vasukama? Somewhere else Vasukama comes in this list. That Vasukama refers to any kind of wealth. Dampatya and for conjugal love. One should worship the chaste wife of Lord Shiva known as Uma. That means that refers to anyonya breathing, mutual affection for each other. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur interprets Yagyam as Indra, who has Yagya as his name. Indra has Yagya as his name also. There are different modes of worship for different persons desiring success in particular subjects. The conditioned soul living within the purview of the material world cannot be an expert in every type of materially enjoyable asset, but one can have considerable influence over a particular matter by worshipping a particular demigod as mentioned above. Ravana was made a very powerful man by worshipping Lord Shiva, and he used to offer severed heads to please Lord Shiva. He became so powerful by the grace of Lord Shiva that all the demigods were afraid of him until he at last challenged the personality of God, Sri Ramachandra, and thus ruined himself. In other words, all such persons who aspire after gaining some or all of the material objects of enjoyment, or the gross materialistic persons, or on the whole less intelligent, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 7.20. It is said there that those who are bereft of all good sense, or those whose intelligence is withdrawn by the deluding energy of Maya, aspire to achieve all sorts of material enjoyment in life by pleasing the various demigods, or by advancing in material civilization under the heading of scientific progress. The real problem of life in the material world is to solve the question of birth, death, old age, and disease. No one wants to take birth again. No one wants to meet death. No one wants to be old or invalid. And no one wants diseases. But these problems are solved neither by the grace of any demigod, nor by the so-called advancement of material science. In the Bhagavad Gita, as well as in the Srimad Bhagavatam, such less intelligent persons have been described as devoid of all good sense. Ramai says there, Hridagyana. Sukadeva Goswami said that out of the 8,400,000 species of living entities, the human form of life is rare and valuable. And out of those rare human beings, those who are conscious of the material problems are rarer still. And the still more rare persons are those who are conscious of the value of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which contains the messages of the Lord and his pure devotees. Death is inevitable for everyone, intelligent or foolish. But Parikshit Maharaj has been addressed by the Goswami as the Manishi, or the man of highly developed mind. He's been referred to as Manishina, because at the time of death, he left all material enjoyment and completely surrendered unto the lotus feet of the Lord by hearing his messages from the right person, Shukadeva Goswami. But aspirations for material enjoyment by endeavoring persons are condemned. I'll read that again. But aspirations for material enjoyment by endeavoring persons are condemned. Such aspirations are something like the intoxication of the degraded human society. Intelligent persons should try to avoid these aspirations and seek instead the permanent life by returning home back to Godhead. State Dharmartha Uttama Shlokam Antuh Tanvan Pitringije Raksha Kamah Punyajana Ojas Kamam Marudgana. One should worship Lord Vishnu or his devotee for spiritual advancement and knowledge, and for protection of heredity and advancement of a dynasty. One should worship the various demigods. Dharmartha Dharma Kama. One who desires dharma. Uttama Shloka Upadhim Vishnu. To worship Vishnu, who has the designation of being Uttama Shloka. Become clearer. Antum Tanvan Santana Vriddhi Manvichan. Raksha Badha Nivrittis. Tat Kamaha. So, one who desires offspring, and wants them to be protected. He should worship the residents of Pitraloka. Then Rakshakama, one who desires protection, should worship the Punya Janas. Punya Janan Yakshan. This refers to Yakshas. Ojas Kama, one who desires strength, should worship Marud Gana. The Maruds. Marut is one category of demigods. Uttama Shloka, Punya Shloka, Dharmika, Nadadayaka, Tadupathin, Tad Adhishthanakam Vishnu. Dharmartha Uttama Shlokam means if one wants to attain dharma or pious credits, then he should worship Lord Vishnu residing in dharmic people, people who are glorified in pious verses, such as King Nala. Nala is a very famous person mentioned in Mahabharata, husband of Damayanti. Iti Arthaha. Another meaning of Uttama Shloka is Dharmachana Kyatar. Uttama Shloko Dharmachana Kyatar. Wow. Or else you should worship the Supreme Lord, who is famous for his dharmic behavior. Another meaning, Uttama Shlokam Dharmam. This refers to the demigod known as Dharma, who is glorified with excellent verses. Tantun Tanman Santana Vruddhimichan Punya Janan Yakshan Marudganan Devan. Worship the Marud Devas. And the path of religion entails making progress on the path of spiritual advancement, ultimately reviving the eternal relation with Lord Vishnu in his impersonal effulgence. His localized Paramatma feature and ultimately his personal feature, spiritual advancement and knowledge. And one who wants to establish a good dynasty and be happy in the progress of temporary bodily relations should take shelter of the Pitas, Pitris, and the demigods and other pious planets. Such different classes of worshippers of different demigods may ultimately reach the respective planets of those demigods within the universe, but he who reaches spiritual planets in the Brahmajyoti achieves the highest perfection. 9. Rajakamo Manun Devan Nirritim Tvabhi Charan Yajet Kama Kamo Yajet Somo Makama Purusham Param. One who desires domination over a kingdom or an empire should worship the Manus. One who desires victory over an enemy should worship the demigods. And one who desires sense gratification should worship the moon. But one who desires nothing of material enjoyment should worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Rajya, Rajatvam, Tatkamaha, Manu, Devan. The one who's desiring to become a king, to run a kingdom, should worship the devas known as Manus. These are the devas who provide protection during a Manvantara. Rajyaha karma rajyam tat kamo vishwan devan iti visheshaha. There was elsewhere, it was noted, there was a similar statement, but that stated that one should worship the Vishvedevas. That is with reference to those who desire to engage in the activities of a king. This is the one who desires the position of a king. Avicharan, Shatru Maranamichan, Nritim, Rakshasam. One who desires victory over the enemy, one who desires his enemy to die, should worship Nirratin, the Rakshasa, Kama Kama, Bhogechuku. One who desires sense enjoyment, he should worship Soma, the demigod named Chandra. Akama, Vairagya Kama, one who has no material desires to be fulfilled, means one who desires renunciation and detachment. Purusham Param, Prakriti Vyatireka Upadhim Ishwaram, refers to the Supreme Lord who has as his Upadhi that which is distinct from Prakriti. Kama, one who has no material desires to be fulfilled. Sarva Kamana Shaya Kama. Very nice. One who desires the destruction of all desires. That is an akama. He's not a person who is desiring to fulfill those desires. And then he quotes Bhavata Deepika. Prakrite sakashad yo vyatireka purvam tat sambandham aropya paschat tat abhava chintanam. This method of worship involves, first of all, relating the Supreme Lord to Prakriti, who is actually distinct from the Lord, who was distinct from the Lord, but to first of all contemplate on him as being related and then to deny that he is related to it. Vasuteva tad abhavat sopi upathir yasyattam. In reality, he is not connected with Prakriti. So those who engage in that kind of meditation are referred to here. Prakriti ekopadhim iti tu pathaha kvachit. There is a alternate reading here. Kama kamo yajet somam. Kama prakriti. How does it come? Prakriti ekopadhim. Or it's probably a variant reading in Bhavata Deepika. Prakriti ekopadhim Ishvara. In which case, Sridhar Swami's remark, and that particular variant reading would lead us to conclude that the persons who are referred to here in the last line, the Kama Purusham Param, they are the ones who are worshipping Lord Vishnu, who has Prakriti alone as its designation. Evam mandadhiyam krityam uktva udaradhiyam krityamaha. Having stated the duties of people of less intelligence, people whose intelligence is dull, udaradhiyam krityamaha. He now states the duty of one who has a broad intelligence. That means one who's highly intelligent. Kama, amana, kshaya kama. Param purusham, purushottamam, bhagavantam ityartha. The person who desires the destruction of all desires, material desires, should worship Param Purusham, the Supreme Person, which refers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavan. For a liberated person, all the enjoyments listed above are considered to be absolutely useless. Only those who are conditioned by the material modes of external energy are captivated by different types of material enjoyment. Only those who are conditioned by the material modes of external energy are captivated by different types of material enjoyment. In other words, the transcendentalist has no material desires to be fulfilled, whereas the materialist has all types of desires to be fulfilled. The Lord has proclaimed that the materialists who desire material enjoyment and thus seek the favor of different demigods as above mentioned are not in control of their senses, and so give themselves to nonsense. This is a reference to that Bhagavad Gita statement. Kama says Ratagyana. One should therefore not desire any sort of material enjoyment, being sensible enough to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The leaders of nonsensical persons are still more nonsensical because they preach openly and foolishly that one can worship any form of demigod and get the same result. This sort of preaching is not only against the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita or also the Srimad Bhagavatam, but is also foolish. Just as it is foolish to claim that with the purchase of any travel ticket, one may reach the same destination. No one can reach Bombay from Delhi by purchasing a ticket for Baroda. It is clearly defined herein that persons impregnated with different desires have different modes of worship. But one who has no desire for material enjoyment should worship the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. This worshipping process is called devotional service. Pure devotional service means service to the Lord without any tinge of material desires, including desire for fruitive activity and empiric speculation. For fulfillment of material desires, one may worship the Supreme Lord, but the result of such worship is different, as will be explained in the next verse. Generally, the Lord does not fulfill anyone's material desires for sense enjoyment. He awards such benedictions to worshippers of the Lord, for they ultimately come to the point of not desiring material enjoyment. The conclusion is that one must minimize the desires for material enjoyment. For this, one should worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is described here as Param, or beyond anything material. Kripa Shankaracharya has also stated, Narayana Parovyakta. The Supreme Lord is beyond the material encirclement. Then, Kama Sarvakamo Va, Mokshakamo Udara Dhi, Tivrena, Bhakti Yogena, Yajeta Purusham Param. A person who has broader intelligence, whether he be full of all material desire, without any material desire, or desiring liberation, must by all means worship the Supreme Whole, the personality of Godhead. Kama ekanta bhakta, ukta anukta sarva kama, purusham purnam nirrupadham. Here, Akama refers to an ekanta bhakta, a one-pointed devotee of the Lord. Sarvakama refers to one who desires everything that has been stated here, or even things which are not stated here. Purusham Purnam, that is Sridhar Swami's reading. Yajeta Purusham Param, Yajeta Purusham Purnam. Both of them have the same meaning. One should worship the Lord without any material designations, who has no material designation. Udara Buddhi, Sanatana Goswami. Mahabuddhischet. Udara Buddhi means Mahabuddhi. If the person has great intelligence, Tada Param Purusham Shri Krishnam Bhaje, then he should worship the Supreme Person Shri Krishna. Or Ivrena, Dhena, with firm bhakti yoga. Yadva, Kama, Vairagya Kama, Udaradhi, Bhagavadeka, Prapti Kama, Va. Anyat Samana. Another possible meaning. Akama means one who desires. Vairagya, detachment and renunciation. Udaradhi refers to one who only has a desire to attain the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the previous two chapters, it was pointed out that Bhakti Yoga is better than Karma, Yoga, and Jnana, all of these processes. in the future chapter also. Then the chapter that comes after them, it is pointed out that Bhagavad Bhakti Yoga to Lord Vishnu, is superior to worship of all the devatas. This is starting from X2 in this chapter up to the current verse. तीव्रेण दृढ़ेन स्वभावतैव अनुपघात्येन इति विघ्न अनवकाशता ukta. Firm engagement in bhakti means to engage in bhakti yoga, which is naturally free from all obstacles. In other words, there is no opportunity for any obstacle in this engagement of bhakti. कामना तु यथा कथंचित कृतेन अपि स्यात्. Here is another explanation that Prabhupada will also refer to. Kamatvam, bhajaniya parama purusha sukha matra swasukhatvam. Kama refers to a person whose happiness is only the happiness of the Supreme Person who is the object of worship. Bhakti matra kamatve vyakhyayate dharma purusharthini ativyaptisya तीव्रेण सर्वेषु पुरुष साधक तमेन. And one should engage in this kind of bhakti yoga firmly. Firmly. You should understand that bhakti yoga is the supreme amongst all of the different processes. न केवलम अकाम एव परम पुरुषम यजेदपि तु उक्तानुक्त सर्वकामोपि निष्कामस्य भगवन्तमेव यजेत्. It is not that only a person who is akama should engage in worship of the Supreme Person. Rather, even the person who desires everything that has been stated here, or anything which has not been stated here, as well as the person who is nishkama, free from such desires, they should also worship the Supreme Lord alone. Akama ekanta bhakta iti Sridhar Swami Charnaha. The respected Sridhar Swami has stated that Akama refers to a one-pointed devotee of Lord Vishnu. Akamaha bhajaniya parama purusha sukha matra swasukha iti sandarbha. And the Kama Sandarbha is noted that Kama is a person whose happiness is nothing but the happiness of the Supreme Person who is the object of worship. Sarvakama iti anenaiva sakama samanya labdhe mokshakama iti pratak upadhanam tad adhikarinam vayam nishkama iti abhimana khandanartham. When Sarvakama is already referring to all kinds of desires, then the separate word mokshakama has been used in order to destroy the for those who are eligible for moksha, the pride. Oh, we don't have material desires. Kimva, or else. सर्वकामेभ्यः अपि मोक्षकामस्य सकामत्व अतिशय ज्ञापनार्थं. Mokshakama, another reason why Mokshakama is referred to separately is to point out that it is superior to desiring all of these things which are material. तथा च स्वस्य दुःखहान इच्छा सुख प्राप्ति इच्छा च कामः उच्यते. And so it is understood that kama refers to the desire to get rid of one's misery and to attain happiness. सा सा च स्वस्य तात्कालिक किंचित मात्र दुःख खंडनार्थम नश्वर स्वर्गादि सुखार्थम च प्रवृत्तेभ्यः कर्मेभ्यः देवतांतर उपासकेभ्यः च ज्ञानाधिकारिणां स्वीय संसार दुःख खंडने प्रवृत्तानां निष्कामता तद्वचनैरेव अवसीयते. So now people are endeavoring for these two: destruction of their unhappiness and attainment of happiness. Uh, these are actually the karmis who are engaged in trying to get rid of the miseries that only come upon at that particular time, or and who are endeavoring for the happiness of swarga and so on, which are all temporary. But those who are eligible for jnana, uh, they are distinct from these worshippers of the deities other than Lord Vishnu. They are engaged in the process of destroying the, the distress of their very material existence, their repetition of birth and rebirth. So therefore, these ones are referred to as nishkama. But nevertheless, they do have a certain desire. But there are other kinds of, uh, there are other persons who don't even desire this. नाथयोनि सहस्रेषु येषु येषु व्रजाम्यहम् तेषु तेषु अच्युता भक्तिर अच्युतास्तु सदा त्वयि. Oh my Lord, in whichever thousands of species of life I may attain, in each of these may I have unfailing devotional service unto you, O Lord Achyuta. This is from Vishnu Purana. Swakarma phala nirdishtam yam yam yonim rajamyaham tasyam rishikesha tvayi bhaktir dhirastu me. A similar verse. Um, whichever species of life I may attain, as directed by the results of my own material activities, O Lord Rishikesha, may I have firm devotion service unto you. Tanna samadishopayam yena te charanamjayo smritir yatha nagramed api samsaratamiha. Please instruct me about, please instruct us about that means by which uh, our remembrance of your lotus feet will never cease even while we wander in this samsara. Rayo upavesha arambhe ragyaha api vachanam yatha. And there was a statement by the king also when he sat down to fast until death. Punascha bhuyad bhagavatyanante rati prasangascha tadashrayeshu mahatsu yam yam upayami srishtim maitriyasya sarvatra namodvijebhya. Again and again, may there be attraction to the supreme unlimited personality of Godhead. May there be association with those who have taken shelter of him. The great souls. In whichever species of life I may go, let there be friendship towards everyone. I offer my obeisances unto the twice born. Udaradhi subuddhi. The word udaradhi means a person with good intelligence. Kamarahitye, kamasahityeva, bhakter bhagavad vishayatvamev subuddhitva chihnam. And what is the identifying characteristic of such good intelligence? That is to keep the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the object of his devotional service, whether he is free from these desires or whether he has these desires. Bhava eva mandabuddhitva chikhnam ityartha. The meaning is, if one does not have the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the sole object of his service, then he is a person of less intelligence. Tivrena, jnana karmadya amishrena, मेघाद्य मिश्र एव सौरकिरणः यथा तीव्रः स्यात् तथा इति अर्थः. तीव्रेण भक्ति योगेन means that one engages in bhakti yoga without mixing it with jnana, karma, etc. That means one does not engage in adharma, one does not engage in karma, any activities of the karma system, does not engage in any activities of the jnana system, and so on. Just as the sun ray, when it is not mixed with the clouds and so on, is considered to be intense. That is the sense of this expression. Should engage in intense bhakti yoga, forceful bhakti yoga. The Supreme Personality of God, Lord Shri Krishna, is described in the Bhagavad Gita as Purushottama, or the Supreme Personality. It is He only who can award liberation to the impersonalists by absorbing such aspirants in the Brahmajyoti, the bodily rays of the Lord. The Brahmajyoti is not separate from the Lord, as the glowing sun rays are not independent of the sun disk. Therefore, one who desires to merge into the supreme impersonal Brahmajyoti must also worship the Lord by Bhakti Yoga, as recommended here in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhakti Yoga is especially stressed here as the means of all perfection. In the previous chapter, it has been stated that Bhakti Yoga is the ultimate goal of both Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga. And in the same way, in this chapter, it is emphatically declared that Bhakti Yoga is the ultimate goal of the different varieties of worship of different demigods. Bhakti Yoga, thus being the supreme means of self-realization, is recommended here. Everyone must therefore seriously take up the methods of Bhakti Yoga, even though one aspires for material enjoyment or liberation from material bondage. An akama is one who has no material desire. A living being, naturally being the part and parcel of the supreme whole, Purusham Purnam, has as a natural function to serve the supreme being, just as the parts and parcels of the body or the limbs of the body are naturally meant to serve the complete body. Desireless means, therefore, not to be inert like the stone, but to be conscious of one's actual position, and thus desire satisfaction only from the Supreme Lord. The Jiva Goswami has explained this desirelessness as Bhajaniya Paramapurusha Sukhamatra Swasukhatvam in his Sandarbha. This means that one should feel happy only by experiencing the happiness of the Supreme Lord. This intuition of the living being is sometimes manifested even during the conditioned stage of living being in the material world. And such intuition is expressed in the manner of altruism, philanthropy, socialism, communism, etc., by the undeveloped minds of less intelligent persons. The idea is this: even in this world, we see there are those who only find happiness when someone else is happy. Philanthropists, very rich people, a lot of money, but they find happiness when someone who does not have money gets money from them, and so on. In the mundane field, such an outlook of doing good to others in the form of society, community, family, country, or humanity is a partial manifestation of the same original feeling, in which a pure living entity feels happiness by the happiness of the Supreme Lord. The idea is all of this is a partial manifestation of the original feeling of selfless affection a pure living entity feels for the Supreme Lord. Such superb feelings were exhibited by the damsels of Vrajabhumi for the happiness of the Lord. The gopis loved the Lord without any return, and this is the perfect exhibition of the Kama spirit. The kama spirit or the desire for one's own satisfaction is fully exhibited in the material world, whereas the spirit of akama is fully exhibited in the spiritual world. Thoughts of becoming one with the Lord or being merged in the Brahmajyoti can also be exhibitions of the kama spirit if they are desires for one's own satisfaction, to be free from the material desires, from the material miseries. A pure devotee does not want liberation so that he may be relieved from the miseries of life. Even without so-called liberation, a pure devotee aspires for the satisfaction of the Lord, influenced by the kama spirit. Arjuna declined to fight in the Kurukshetra battlefield because he wanted to save his relatives for his own satisfaction. But being a pure devotee, he agreed to fight on the instruction of the Lord because he came to his senses and realized that satisfaction of the Lord at the cost of his own satisfaction is his prime duty. Thus, he became kama. That is the perfect stage of a perfect living being. I thought there was a question in the chat box. But in spite of reading and hearing such scriptures, unless one is in touch with the realized spiritual master, you cannot actually realize the real nature of the self. Where is this from? Anyway, what is that being in touch with spiritual master? Being in touch with the spiritual master means to carry out the instructions of the spiritual master, to engage in Navavidha Bhakti. In Bhagavad Gita, there is a famous verse, Vyavasayatmika buddhi reke hai purunandana. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has commented on that. He has remarked that Vyavasayatmika buddhi refers to the resolute determination to carry out service to Lord Sri Krishna, such as Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Padasevanam, and so on, which are taught by one's spiritual master. Do the Manus have separate planet? I do not know. I have been wondering about this whole Manu Tattva. They are devas, but where they live and all, it is not clear. Since we are only studying Bhagavatam, it's not clear to us. But this kind of information will be scattered all over the Puranas. When I come across it, I'll let you know. Udaradhi means one who has a broader outlook. People with desires for material enjoyment worship small demigods, and such intelligence is condemned in the Bhagavad Gita 7.20 as Kritagyana, the intelligence of one who has lost his senses. One cannot obtain any result from demigods without getting sanction from the Supreme Lord. Therefore, a person with a broader outlook can see that the ultimate authority is allowed even for material benefits. Therefore, he is considered to be Subuddhi, he is considered to be Mahabuddhi. Yes, that's a question here. Yes, Prabhu.
Bro, here, one second.
Your voice is echoing. Why?
Yeah. Bro, here it is mentioned in the purport that one should feel happy only by experiencing the happiness of the Supreme Lord. Does
Yes,
it
that is.
mean by doing devotional service we experience happiness? That is what Prabhupada is writing here.
He gives the example of the gopis of Vrindavan. So those who desire only the happiness of the Supreme Lord, they do not desire kama, artha, dharma, moksha. That is what is referred to there. So an akama devotee of the Supreme Lord is one who does not desire kama, does not desire artha, does not desire dharma, does not desire moksha. He only wants Krishna's happiness. He does not want his own happiness. Wanting one's own happiness means wanting one's own happiness through dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Therefore, a person with a broader outlook can see that the ultimate authority is the Lord, even for material benefits. Under the circumstances, one with a broader outlook, even with the desire for material enjoyment or for liberation, should take to the worship of the Lord directly. And everyone, whether an akama or sakama or mokshakama, should worship the Lord with great expedience. This implies that Bhakti Yoga may be perfectly administered without any mixture of karma and jnana, as unmixed sun rays are very forceful, therefore called tivra. Similarly, unmixed Bhakti Yoga of hearing, chanting, etc., may be performed by one and all, regardless of inner motive. 11. एतावानेव यजतान् इह निःश्रेयसोदयः भगवत्यचलो भावो यद् भागवत संगतः. All the different kinds of worshippers of multi-demigods can attain the highest perfection and benediction, which is spontaneous attraction, unflinchingly fixed upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead, only by the association of the pure devotee of the Lord. पूर्वोक्त नाना देवता यजनस्य अपि संयोग पृथक्त्वेन भक्ति योग फलत्वमाह एतावानिति. इंद्रादीन अपि यजताम् इह तत्तद् यजनेन भागवतानां संगतो भगवती अचलो भावो भक्तिर्भवति इति यत् एतावानेव निःश्रेयसस्य परमपुरुषस्य उदयः लाभः अन्यत् तु सर्वं तुच्छमित्यर्थः. See, the ones who worship Indra and others through such worship, if they attain by the association of Bhagavatas, if they attain unshaken devotional service to the Supreme Lord, then that is the actual gain of the Supreme Purushartha. All these other Purusharthas are insignificant. अत्र इंद्रम इंद्रिय कामस्तु इत्याद्युक्तम इंद्रिय पाठवादिकम पृथक्त्वेन फलम भागवतेन संयोगे तु भावः फलम. So when one associates with the Bhagavatas, then even these demigod worshippers experience a different result. Otherwise, they attain just these ordinary, samanya, insignificant, common results. ननु उत्तलक्षणानां देवतान्तरभक्तानां लब्धकामानाम् अन्ते खलु का गतिः स्यात् इति चेत् न कापि, किन्तु यदि यादृच्छिक महत् कृपा स्यात् तदैव भक्तिः स्यात् इत्याह. Question: what would be the result for these devotees of the deities other than the Supreme Lord who have been characterized here after they attain their respective desires? The answer is nothing. Nothing permanent. Into, but if they attain the mercy of the great souls, which come by themselves, yadrachika, only then they would get bhakti. This is pointed out here. Etavan eva yajatam devatantaryajinam nishreyasa udayah. It is this which brings about the supreme goal, the actual benefit for those who worship these other devas. Yat yadi, if Bhagavat Adam Sangataha Heto, by the association of the Bhagavat, Bhagavati Bhavaha, Sevyatva Bhavanasya, they attain the right attitude towards the Supreme Lord, which means they attain the attitude that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, he is meant to be the object of service. Anyatha tu anyatha na nishreyasam. Tattad devatanam api nishreyasa abhavat iti bhavaha. Otherwise, one does not get the ultimate result because even these other demigods do not experience the ultimate result. Yaduktam bhagavata. And that has been stated by the Supreme Lord. Then he quotes Bhagavad Gita 9.23 to 24. Yepi anyata devata bhakta yajante shraddhayanvita तेपि मामेव कौन्तेय यजन्ति अविधिपूर्वकम् अहं हि सर्वयज्ञानां भोक्ता च प्रभुरेव च न तु माम् अभिजानन्ति तत्त्वेनातश्च्यवन्ति ते देवतान्तरस्य यजनं तु नैव भगवद्भावकारणं किन्तु भागवतसङ्ग एव. Now worship of these other uh, worshipable deities, that is certainly not the cause for attaining that devotion service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Rather, it is the association of the Bhagavatas alone that lead to that. Such a yadrchayaiva bhaved iti prak pratipalitam. It has already been established that that happens by itself. That means by the will of those madhyamadhikaris. All living entities in different statuses of life within the material creation, beginning from the first demigod Brahma, down to the small ant, are conditioned under the law of material nature or the external energy of the Supreme Lord. The living entity in his pure state is conscious of the fact that he is a part and parcel of the Lord. But when he's thrown into the material world on account of his desire to lord it over material energy, he becomes conditioned by the three modes of material nature and thus struggles for existence for the highest benefit. This struggle for existence is something like following the will or the wisp under the spell of material enjoyment. All plans for material enjoyment, either by worship of different demigods, as described in the previous verses of this chapter, or by modernized advancement of scientific knowledge without the help of God or demigod, or illusory only, or despite all such plans for happiness, a conditioned living being within the compass of material creation can never solve the problems of life, namely birth, death, old age, and disease. The history of the universe is full of such plan makers only, is full of such plan makers. And many kings and emperors come and go, leaving a plan making story only. But the prime problems of life remain unsolved, despite all endeavors by such plan makers. Actually, human life is meant for making a solution to the problems of life. One can never solve such problems by satisfying the different demigods by different modes of worship or by so-called scientific advancement in knowledge without the help of God or the demigod. Apart from the gross materialists who care very little either for God or for the demigods, the Vedas recommend worship of different demigods for different benefits. And so the demigods are neither false nor imaginary. The demigods are as factual as we are. But they are much more powerful due to that being engaged in the direct service of the Lord in managing different departments in the universal government. The Bhagavad Gita affirms this. And the different planets of the demigods are mentioned there, including the one of the supreme demigod, Lord Brahma. The gross materialists do not believe in the existence of God or the demigods. Nor do they believe that different planets are dominated by different demigods. They're trying to reach the nearest planet, Chandraloka or the moon. But even after much mechanical research, they have only very scanty information of the moon. And in spite of much false advertisement for selling land on the moon, the puffed up scientists or gross materialists are having difficulty reaching this nearest planet. And what to speak of the other planets which they are unable even to count. However, the followers of the Vedas have a different method of acquiring knowledge. They accept the statements of the Vedic literatures as authority in toto, fully, as we have already discussed in Canto 1, and therefore they have full and reasonable knowledge of God and demigods and of their different residential planets situated within the compass of the material world and beyond the limit of the material sky. The most authentic Vedic literature accepted by the great Indian acharyas like Shankara, Ramanuja, Madhva, Vishnu Swami, Nimbarka, and Chaitanya, studied by all important personalities of the world, is the Bhagavad Gita, in which the worship of the demigods and their respective residential planets are mentioned. The Bhagavad Gita 9.25 affirms, Yanti deva vrata deva, pitrini yanti pitru vrata, bhutani yanti bhutejya, yanti madhyajino pimam. Worshippers of demigods reach the respective planets of the demigods, and the worshippers of forefathers reach the planets of the forefathers. The gross materialist remains in the different material planets, but the devotees of the Lord reach the kingdom of God. We also have information from the Bhagavad Gita that all the planets within the material world, including Brahmaloka, are but temporarily situated, and after a fixed period, they are all annihilated. Therefore, the demigods and their followers are all annihilated at the period of devastation. But one who reaches the kingdom of God gets a permanent share in eternal life. That is the verdict of Vedic literature. The worshippers of the demigods have one facility more than the unbelievers due to their being convinced of the Vedic version by which they can get information of the benefit of worshipping the Supreme Lord in the association of the devotees of the Lord. The gross materialist, however, without any faith in the Vedic version, remains eternally in darkness, driven by a false conviction on the basis of imperfect experimental knowledge or so called material science, which can never reach into the realm of transcendental knowledge. So, the only benefit in worship of demigods is that the you get information about the benefit of worshipping the Supreme Lord in the association of the devotees of the Lord. But trying to attain material happiness without accepting Vedic authority will not lead us to that point of receiving information of the benefit of worshipping the Supreme Lord in the association of the devotees of the Lord. Therefore, unless the gross materialists or the worshippers of the temporary demigods come in contact with the transcendentalists like the pure devotee of the Lord, their attempts are simply a waste of energy. Only by the grace of the divine personalities, the pure devotees of the Lord, can one achieve pure devotion, which is the highest perfection of human life. Only a pure devotee of the Lord can show one the right way of progressive life. Otherwise, both the materialistic way of life without any information of God or the demigods, and the life engaged in the worship of demigods in pursuit of temporary material enjoyments are different phases of phantasmagoria. They are nicely explained in the Bhagavad Gita also, but the Bhagavad Gita can be understood in the association of pure devotees only, not by the interpretations of politicians or dry philosophical speculators. Very good. In Bengali, they say Darun. Okay, so I'll stop with that. Stop screen share. Okay, there's a question.
Hare
Yes.
Krishna, Prabhu.
Very good.
Prabhuji, when we change bodies, like if one has left the present body and he is about to get another body, so in that phase, will he remember all his previous lives on all different planets and what all enjoyments he had or what all sufferings he had?
As far as I understand, when one becomes a demigod, from whatever we see in the Puranas, those souls who go up, they do remember the pious activities that they've done. Now, when you go down, do you remember? It does not look like. When you go neither up nor down, see, there is upgrade, there's downgrade, there is that stasis. There is just continuing in the same status. So if I don't go up, if I don't become a demigod, and I don't go down, I don't attain animal species. That means that I'm going to get another human body. And these people also don't remember. So it looks like you need to engage in pious activities in order to be enlightened. Okay?
Actually, I was asking Prabhu that when our judgment is being done, our next body is not allotted at that time.
Next body is not allowed to means what?
Like he is yet to enter into another gross body.
But Prabhupada himself says, no, even in this life, your next body is already finalized.
Immediately we go there.
But I behave like a pig, then I'm already working out my visa for getting into a pig body. What?
No, he's asking after the death, does one go through to the Yamraj and suffers and then sent to another yoni, or it's
Could
directly?
be. Yeah, I think for sinful people, all sinful so human bodies, they end up at Yamaraj's place. That is noted in 6th canto. That is noted in the Bhagavatam. It's a fact. When we engage in sinful activities, then we have to face Yamaraj.
Actually, the point of asking was here it is described that so many desires and so many demigods, so many ways of worship.
No. This is different. This is pious. Those who are engaged in pious activities, they don't have to go to Yamaraj. Why they have to go to Yamaraj?
No, so I was asking that if I have done one demigod worship in one lifetime, will I ever remember that I have already done it and it was waste? So let me now focus on Krishna. Will it ever happen? Does it ever happen like this? That I have done, I in pursuit of this particular sense enjoyment, I enjoyed it and it was useless. So let me now worship Krishna only.
This Vanishtas, their idea is to make spiritual progress by progressing over the species. But they know that Vishnu is the Supreme Lord because they have the association of uh, proper Vaishnavas. They also accept Lord Brahma as as their guru. Therefore, they are like that. So when one goes to the planet of various demigods, demigoddesses, and in the association of great devotees of the Lord, one submits to devotion service to Lord Vishnu, then that opportunity is there. But otherwise, no. Otherwise, no. We may go on engaging in material activities, whether of the pious type or impious type. But pious ones lead us to happiness in the long run. Impious ones don't lead us to that point. But it is not that simply from those activities themselves we will attain Vairagya. One has to desire that. We all get what we desire. On the temples, we find new pictures. What does it mean? When Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was asked about these kind of, they're not pictures, sculptures outside Jagannath Puri temple, then he said that there is Jagannath Darshan inside the temple and there is Jagad Darshan outside the temple. So those who are desirous of Jagad Darshan are meant to be enticed and kept outside, and they are not fit for Jagannath Darshan. Those who want Jagannath Darshan should say no to this and go inside to take darshan of Jagannath and not become obsessed with Jagat.
Prabhu, but sometimes people say that it distracts us. Even those who want to have Jagannath darshan, they also get distracted.
No, if you are so distracted, you are unfit for Jagannath Darshan. That is the whole point. No? It's a test.
Hard test, very hard.
We can make it as hard as possible. And for those who are serious, they will say that there's nothing. All right.
Yes, bro.
Okay, so I'll stop at this. I'll stop the screen share. I'll rework on the schedule. Anyway, after I've done it, I'll let you know. Vanchakalpatrubhyasya kripasanubhyo vachapatitanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavabhyo namo namaha.